Good morning and welcome to Friday, baby. The Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason sit back, relax, strap on that seatbelt, leave the drive into us today. Our toll-free number, 800-951-0592. The website at allamericangold.com. And, man, it's been a big week, hasn't it? Jay Powell, the Fed. They don't see any inflation. They don't see stagflation. They don't see anything. We had jobs on Wednesday from ADP that was kind of hot. Then we had jobless claims yesterday. Nobody was getting fired. But don't worry, because today we got the government jobs number. And, Jason, it was much less than expected. 175,000 jobs, well below the 240,000 jobs expected. But the big news was the unemployment rate ticked up to a whopping 3.9%, which I guess outside of the last 2 years would be a red-hot number, is now, see, things really are slowing down. Goldilocks has entered the building, and all of a sudden now, September rate cuts, Jason, they're back on the table now, according to Wall Street anyway.
Yeah, well, we know that certain factors will, I guess, watching the data, if the data says a certain thing, then the Fed will change their behavior accordingly. But I don't know what he said, no stag, no inflation. Lowering the rates doesn't really help that situation much, does it?
Well, and here's what's so funny is ADP saying wage growth, 5+%. All of the CPI, the PPI, all of the manufacturers, the service guys, all saying, yep, wage inflation is still here. But the government says, nope, our average hourly earnings only rose 0.2% and is now only up 3.9% from a year ago. The part-time workers, discouraged workers, edged up again to 7.4%, the highest level since November of 2021. The labor force participation rate was unchanged. The biggest contributor to jobs was healthcare, 56,000. But the one that really stood out, a significant rise in social assistance, up 31,000 jobs. Transportation and warehousing, 22,000. Retail, only 20,000. And then the government, only 8,000. So the government's been averaging about 55,000. So a lot of the miss, I guess, on the headline was the lack of the government side of things. And then revisions, March was lowered by 12,000 jobs. February is lower by 34,000 jobs. And like I said, the unemployment rate did tick up to 3.9. I guess that's the new thing. Wall Street loved it. Oh, yes, it's great. Look at more people got laid off, couldn't find work. And, oh, by the way, less people got hired. Life is wonderful.
Rich versus the poor, huh, Joe? the ones with the deepest pockets love economic information that says jobs are going away because they want cheaper money and they want to buy more assets. That's plain and simple. But the problem is that there's more broken than just jobs and lowering rates. There's a lot more going on than just that, and that's why gold popped off for a couple of months here and went to all-time record highs recently. And going to reload that spring, so to speak, and we'll probably see gold doing the same thing here in the months to come.
Yeah, and it was almost a 50% drop, I guess, from what we've been doing, from March, 50% drop from March. So I guess that's significant. It does go with the jolts, right? So if you put the jolts number, right, job openings fell pretty significantly. They said people quitting fell to the lowest levels since, before COVID. And then, of course, they also said that hiring had slowed. So we'll see. This is definitely something where all of a sudden now the rate hikers are back on, at least back on the clock, right? So the numbers before this definitely didn't say anything about, and again, I guess the only thing that is going to bring inflation down, right, Jason, is job losses. I mean, it was still 175,000 jobs added. That's still a pretty good number.
Yeah, well, let's just see. We'll see what happens in the next days and weeks to come, right, Joe? We'll be watching it, and all of this, of course, Joe, it just spells why we're on the air, which is precious metals, Joe. You got to get yourself right with that.
Yeah, this is just another one of these things, and it's so funny how their ability. Well, we're going to ignore this report, that report. But This one, though, this is the one. Now, see, this is the one we really like, because we also got numbers today from service PMI, also ISM services, both of them pretty weak. Services, 51.3. Remember, 50 is considered flat, so just above flat. The PMI went into negative territory, so it's the first contraction since December of 2022. And in both of those reports, both said, by the way, prices paid really increased in the month. So, hey, let's ignore that, though, because look at what the unemployment rate went up. So there you have it. Patriot Radio News Hour. Jason and I, we're going to be right back. 800-951-0592, the year of chaos, the first Friday in May. It's just been just a crazy week when we think about all the different data points and things that Jay Powell said. Looking here at the markets, it's a good day for Wall Street, at least right now. The Dow's up 300 points. It was up 400 points at one time. The S&P's up 41. The Nasdaq's up 244. Apple, they sales weren't as bad as expected, so they beat earnings, but it had nothing to do with that. The big news: record amount of buybacks coming out of Apple. $110 billion worth of buybacks. How much stock did they hand out? Right? Think about it, right? All the head at Apple. How many hundreds of millions of shares do they really give out? But don't worry, AC, we helped out our rich buddies with a 110 billion share buyback. So that's kind of helping the Dow. The 10-year note, it's at 4.52 for a little while. It got below 4.5, which that's great. But come Monday, debt sales resume. I don't expect it to stay here, but at least for a day, the 10-year note coming off of its highs. Right now, gold's down 6, silver's down 23, but I think this is the shorts getting out of the way here. When I saw the data out this morning, I'm like, gosh, gold was up $3, $4, $5, and I was like, God, boy. 10-year note dropping like this, rate cuts being, you think gold would be soaring. But you got to remember, the momentum was inflation, raging, higher for longer. Now today, oh my gosh, look, unemployment 3.9. Oh, September rate cuts back on the table. I think a lot of shorts got out of the way today. So gold, it dropped like $30 in like 10 minutes, and now it's coming all the way. I'll say this. If gold closes higher today, Jason, why do I got a feeling? I don't know, but I got a feeling, right, we could have a big update on Monday, because that's kind of how this trend goes.
Well, we were talking about what was Janet Yellen saying to China on her little meeting, and then gold cooled off. If you're right, let's just say that, some shorts are being taken care of. Maybe Janet Yellen's like, hey, would you guys just stop for a little bit and let my rich buddies get out? And then you can resume. Maybe we talk about June being another massive up month. Just give Janet Yellen's rich buddies a chance to get out and then commence. And then I could commence the rest of the year.
And Secretary of State Bilkin was just there. So Janet Yellen came. China kind of gave her the cold shoulder. She wasn't there because they were making too many solar. That was the big thing. Oh, my gosh, look at all the solar panels they're making. Give me a break. Right? Then Bilkin comes, and China gave him the cold shoulder. Apparently, they barely even met the guy at the airport. You know, that used to be like a big deal. You know, you're supposed to show respect and all of that. In the currency side, the dollar's weaker today. The Japanese yen down to 153. The Japanese finance minister just came out and kind of let it be known, yep, we've been intervening, and we'll only intervene when there's these unnecessary moves. So be ready for more Japanese intervention, but only when these moves they're unnecessarily too strong. Then they're going to step in. I bet that makes everybody feel better. But this is why we keep telling you how important diversification really is. Be better. Listen, 87, right? No one knew, right, what to do. Then we had the dot-com bubble, and people got torched. Then here comes the financial crisis. I think the financial crisis, a few people woke up, right, and got diversified beforehand. The next bubble, we know it's going to burst. When is it going to be? And be smart here. Get well diversified before you will save yourself a ton in losses when these bubbles burst. Get that gold and silver put. I think that's the best play you can make. But then, hey, I got an IRA I've already got gold and silver put away there, or you know what? You got to have some exposure. I'm not telling you to get out of Wall Street. You got to have some exposure to everything here. But if you got an existing IRA, maybe you got too much money in your bank account. Check out our friends over at YRefi. If you've got more than $50,000, you can get up to 10.25% fixed rate of return. You can turn your income on, you can turn it off, but it doesn't change. It's not correlated to Wall Street. Man, it's going to be a nice feeling. Find out if you qualify. Check them out. InvestYRefi.com. That's the word invest, the letter Y, REFY.com. Or just call them. Just call them 888-YRefi24. And Jason, like you said, it is interesting. Right? Janet Yellen goes to China. All of a sudden, you know, and let's face it, gold's been on a huge tear, and we know the outrageous demand coming from Asia, even South Korea, right? It was so funny. It was the biggest backhand to gold, where he's sitting there saying, oh, you know, gold's not great, and we like other stuff, and blah, blah, blah. By the way, yeah, we're probably going to start buying gold again, right? That tells you all you really need to know, because they don't want to buy gold. They don't. Who would want to buy gold? Think about it. Right? When we're sitting here talking to you, you should not want to buy gold. Why am I saying that? Because, well, if they were doing the job the way they were supposed to, these central bankers, if they were really as good as they said, why would you need to buy gold? You wouldn't. If we could run balanced budgets, would you need to buy gold? That the budget deficit was, let's go back 20 years. Right? If it was $5 or $6 trillion, would you need to buy gold? No. No. Does South Korea want to buy gold? They don't. They don't. But guess what they're saying? We're being forced to. What do you mean you're being forced to? Well, all the fiat money's devaluing itself, and you know what? We know what's coming, and we're going to need to buy gold because of it. And Jason, how many times have we said to people, be your own central bank? Just watch what they're doing. It tells you a lot. Really, it tells you all you really need to know.
Perhaps when you said Jenny Yellen's story was you're making too many solar panels, maybe that was code for too much silver, because it was when silver went off is when suddenly all the everything stopped, right? Because gold had been going for many weeks and just $100 a week, and then silver started finally following, and then suddenly the meeting with Janet Yellen and too many solar panels, Joe. I mean, isn't that kind of a nice way of saying too much? Silver's going up too fast, gold's going up too fast. So that's what I wonder, Joe. I mean, why did she go then and she didn't go last year? Why wasn't her meeting with China in 6 months, right? It's always the timing, right, Joe? You got to look at the timing. And the only thing that was really going off at that time was gold and silver, and the commodities were just racing.
Wow, just crossing the tape here. BF Brokers, they're an account auditing firm. They do a lot of public company audits. According to the Securities and Exchange Commission, they have shut it down. Wow. So this is a cease and desist order. According to the Financial Times, one of the most prolific auditors of U.S. public companies, allegations of massive fraud that affects more than 1,500 SEC filings, the agency announced. They've agreed to pay $12 million in civil penalties. The owner agrees to pay $2 million to settle the charge. I guess you don't go to prison for this stuff, I guess. The company also agrees to a permanent suspension from practicing as accountants on any SEC filings effective immediately. According to the SEC, a significant number of listed companies will have to switch auditors within the coming days due to the action. They also acted as a fintech. Okay, so that's like credit cards type stuff, Cash Apps, Venmo, that kind of thing, and also as a crypto company and many other small issuers. According to the SEC, they say they did not properly prepare and maintain audit documentation. They fabricated audit planning meetings. In some cases, simply passed off previous audits during the current audit period. Of the 369 clients whose filings were from January 2021 through June of 2023, 75% of those audits did not comply with SEC regulations. So, Jason, I don't know how big of it sounds like a big issue. We'll have to wait and see. Kind of remember Arthur Andersen, one of the big five accounting firms. They got, I think it was Enron, took them down. We'll have to wait and see. But this is not something you see very often, where the SEC shuts down a company, especially a company that does so many publicly traded companies' SEC filings.
Yeah, they kind of once in a while in a movie you'll see the SEC come in and shut a company down. It's like very dramatic, in a movie. But you're right, they don't do a whole lot of that. It's more about revenue collection, I guess, right? And apparently, maybe there was not enough revenue to collect from this one, right, Joe? They're going to fine it and try to pull what they can, but they shut this one down. So maybe some serious problems, right?
Well, we don't know. Here's the thing. These are the guys that are supposed to come in that, they're supposed to keep the company honest, right? That's what the auditors, supposed to do. They really don't. I mean, let's face it. They're employed by the company. So they really, it's kind of one of those interesting relationships where we're supposed to rely on the auditors to tell us if the company's playing by the rules or not. And now we find out the auditor wasn't playing by the rules. What will that mean? I don't know. I don't know the only company, at least in the article that I'm reading, that they said Trump's Truth Social was one of their clients. So that was the only thing they cared about. Obviously, this was written by the left-leaners out there. But it'll be interesting to see what companies and do any of these companies potentially have problems that could affect. And this is another reason why you like to have gold put away. Why we talk about being diversified. Right? You know what the great thing about gold? It doesn't restate earnings. Right? It doesn't, you don't have to worry about fraud or embezzlement or restating of earnings or the CEO or the CFO or in this case, the auditors behaving badly. It's just another example. You just don't know from one day to the next what's going to happen on the news cycle, Jason.
No, and we know that economically, if major things are going to unfold, then they will elevate the importance of whatever issue, and suddenly we'll have our emergency to have the smoke screen for what's really happening, which is always economic. It seems like everything we talk about something on the Half Empty Cup of Joe, it ends up being tied to economics every single time.
Right. Yeah. Well, and again, isn't this like all the other crashes too? Isn't this what always happens before? Oh yeah, Bernie Madoff fraud. Oh wait, what happened to the auditors? And remember the rating agencies, all that stuff, right? It's all happening. 800-951-0592. Right now, gold 23.04, down $5. Silver's off, just off 27 cents here, 26.31. We've been running 5-ounce silver bars for the last few days. They're $150 for 5-ounce silver bars. Take advantage of that. That is the cheapest price we have on any sort. It's cheaper than rounds, obviously cheaper than silver eagles, cheaper than the utility silver as well. And then $10 liberties. This is the last day here. We sold quite a few of them yesterday, but they're $1,265, 20 or more, $1,260, 50 or more, $1,250 at 800-951-0592. We talked on the Half Empty Cup briefly yesterday. Are we going to need another increase in food stamps? Remember during COVID, the government provided a 25% increase to food stamp recipients. And again, the rolls, the amount of people on food stamps going the wrong direction again, right? It's climbing again. Another one of these signs that we've seen before these bubble bursts is people, more and more people having to rely on food stamps to make ends meet. But a big report last night, Bloomberg saying get ready for higher chicken and egg prices again. Pilgrim's Pride had earnings yesterday. Their CEO told investors during the call that they have developed hatchery issues. And apparently, according to the call, this has been industry-wide. So this is not isolated to just Pilgrim's Pride. They're saying that the issue is that a large number of eggs in incubators aren't hatching, and that they're stemming from this new breed of rooster, right? Here we go again, right, Jason? Let's try to create this new Franken chicken thing, right? Oh yes, it'll be fatter, right? It'll gain weight quicker. We'll get to make more money. But you know what's funny though? Here's what I'll say. Aren't they saying the same thing about reproductive rates? That more and more people are having issues in the reproductive issues? Is this more of, again, I don't know, right? Chemicals, vaccines, 5G, who knows, right? The list goes on and on and on of all the things that it could be. But they're saying that this is industry-wide, and it's interesting comments. They say they don't have the housing to separate males by weight. We don't have the labor to individually weigh all the males to make sure they're at optimum weight for reproduction. So I'm just guessing that these chickens are getting too big too fast, and then when it comes time to reproduce, they can't do it. I don't know. I don't think they would work on chickens to be smaller. They're saying that chicken production nationwide, which was predicted to grow by 1.5%, that by the Department of Agriculture is not going to happen now, and that we could actually see a decline, another decline. According to the USDA, the number of eggs hatched began dropping right after COVID in late 2020. They're now saying that the production rate of 76.5, and this was before the Pilgrim's Pride announcement. So basically 1 in 4 eggs wasn't hatching before COVID. 1 in 5 wasn't hatching, and Pilgrim's Pride is now saying that number is getting worse. They're saying the hurdle to expand production comes at a time when people are turning to poultry because it's less expensive than beef. Well, I don't know how long that's going to rise. So, again, another one of these issues where the land of plenty seemingly now another shortage, and it seems like it's all kinds of things. Remember, what was it, like last year, the year before? We had all these fires at these production places and just kind of mysterious type stuff happening in the food supply. The cattle herds, we had Bill Roberts on the Half Empty Cup yesterday. The cattle herds at historic lows that ranchers are just selling their cattle off because the prices are high enough, and they don't, they're essentially not keeping enough to keep the supply. And can you blame them? They everything else costs more. They got to get their money. And now again, if bird flu wasn't bad enough, now apparently a new problem in the chicken industry. So don't look for food prices to get any cheaper, and it's going to be an interesting thing. Why do I think this is going to become an issue, especially if I don't know that this is going to happen, but if we start seeing the unemployment rate really start to tick up, if that really is going to happen, if with McDonald's and Starbucks and KFC, Yum Brands, if what they're saying is true, that, hey, we've raised prices to the point now where people can't afford it. There's a big thing in New York City now. A Big Mac combo meal or a Whopper combo meal, doesn't matter, $14. $14 in New York City. When we're seeing these reports popping out everywhere about how things, California, forget about it. Who knows what it's probably closer to $20 in California. But is the government going to have to step up the amount of money given to the working poor to make ends meet? And I think this is going to be a growing trend. This is another problem that we're going to have with deficits, right? We're running deficits. This isn't slow down deficits. It definitely isn't. Jay Powell bragged about GDP growth yesterday or Wednesday. So gosh, we were having almost 3% GDP. We're running deficits like we're in an emergency. Well, what happens when we actually get to the emergency? What is it going to look like then? Patriot Radio News Hour. Get that gold, get that silver put away. By the way, silver's all the way back. All right, here you go. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour wrapping up this Friday. Gold's down 2 right now. 2307, 2308. Silver 2640 off just under 20 cents, 18 cents right now. And again, I don't know, but it looks like with this payroll report, I guess, combine it with JOLTS, it's got enough people excited that the Fed now is going to cut rates in September, which I think is the only month they really can. Because anything after that, I think there would be, favoritism in the election. So I think it's wishful thinking, but nonetheless, I think the gold shorts were able to get out today. And again, I think if gold closes up today, very good chance it'll be up on Monday. Of course, that doesn't mean anything. That's just an educated guess, right? I mean, if I knew what gold was going to do day to day, believe me, I wouldn't be doing this show anymore. Right, I'd be on a yacht somewhere. Me and my wife, we'd be hanging out, sipping Mai Tais, and enjoying the good life. But take advantage of these specials. The 5-ounce silver bar at $150. That's a great way.
Yeah.
It's $30, right? We're gonna see $30 silver. We're gonna see way above $30 silver here really soon. And then on the gold side, $10 gold Liberties. These are half ounce. These are the older ones, 1866 to 1907. They look great. All the people because a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, those are so old. They're gonna look like they're like some kind of ancient coin. No, gold is incredible. How durable and how well gold can holds up. These are going to be really nice looking. They're $1,265. If you buy 20 or more, save $5 a coin at $1,260. Heck, you want to buy 50 or more, we're taking it all the way down to $1,250 at 800-951-0592. And the auditor thing, that it's really interesting. They're in Lakewood, Colorado, Jason. They were headquartered in, and CNBC now at least has the article up. The only company they mentioned that they audit is Trump's company. That's it. They're saying they audit 500 publicly traded companies, but that's the only one I'm too lazy to look up who they were allegedly auditing. But isn't that interesting? That just tells you, if you want any semblance of the truth, the mainstream media is like the last place to go.
Yeah, Joe. It's you definitely got to read the tea leaves when you're trying to figure out what's going on. I'll keep going back to it. Janet Yellen doesn't travel to China unless there's a reason for it. That could have been a phone call, right, Joe? They could discuss this. They have lines. They have secure lines where nobody's. Well, of course, that's what we think. That nobody's listening in. But she had to go to China. She had to do something. You got to look at these things and know that things are happening. What was it? Pelosi. Remember Pelosi? She flew out there to Taiwan.
To Taiwan, yep.
Protecting her stock position. We know she's protecting her husband's stock position.
By the way,
she
may be the greatest. She should be the new Oracle. Put her on CNBC. She apparently, her husband, right, may be the greatest new stock picker of all time.
She has used the power of her position to make herself much more powerful and rich. I mean, I was just listening. What was it? We were talking about her. I was hearing from somewhere else. AOC. Remember AOC? It was yesterday on Half 50 Cup of Joe we're talking. And what was it? Our guest yesterday saying, Well, she's got $20 million now. She was a waitress.
She was a bartender. Right? Now all of a sudden, now she's been in Congress a little while. Now she's got 20 mil.
So I mean, if you maybe if you're okay with the corrupt nastiness of Washington D.C., if you want your kid to do well, get them elected. Get them elected, and they'll have them just serve the masters there, and okay, you have your money if you can deal with that.
Speaking of auditors, man, get ready. The IRS made it official. They're coming after everybody. Said that, and they're ramping up audits to crack down on tax cheats and seeks to deliver more revenue to the Treasury coffers. I promise you, they will deliver nowhere close to the amount of revenue, $80 billion that we spent to hire all these agents. That's not why they hired them. We're going to learn, I think in the next few years, we're going to find out why. Every group of taxpayer is going to face more scrutiny, well, with the exception of those that don't have any money, right? Other than that, though, everybody else, get ready. They outlined their plan and efforts to enhance the customer service. Yes, let's face it. That's what we want when the IRS calls. You're like, oh, gosh, they're so nice. They're such nice people. Yes, they're going to enhance customer service. Taxpayers encountered months-long delays during the pandemic. But they're going to be beefing up enforcement. The changes outline in stark contrast to years of underfunding, they said. See, that was the problem. Right? It was just a lot of underfunding. We just didn't have the resources. But now we do. Get ready. Anybody that makes more than $400,000, there's going to be massive increases in audits for you guys. But don't worry. Those of you making less, yeah, they're still coming. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back with the final segment of 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason wrapping up the week here. 5-ounce silver bars at $150. $10 liberties 1 through 19, $1,265. 20 or more, $1,260. 50 or more at $1,250 at 800-951-0592. And you know, it's going to be very interesting as we watch all of these things play out. Can they sneak a rate cut in? Can they not sneak a rate cut in? Even today, what a bunch of nonsense that somehow this jobs report signifies a rate cut, right? And if this had been a job report, if you take away COVID in today, any other job report, any other time, Jason, this would have kind of been a hot report, but this is how they get you set up for, hey, inflation. They're going to say 2%. I don't know that inflation will ever be it will at some point, Jason, but this nonsense that they want 2% inflation, it's just not true. Just not true. And this kind of signifies that it's not, right? Look at 175,000 jobs, an unemployment rate below 4%. I mean, that's a fantastic number. Yeah, it's a fantastic number, right? I mean, we talked about this morning a little bit, especially with the jobs numbers, This looks like what the Fed has been kind of waiting for, right? And we'll see. We'll see how it materializes, Joe, when we get the next one, right? What's going to happen with the next one, right? Yeah, this is going to be something where, again, I guess this is just how it is, right? Whatever the data of the day is, that now is indicative of what's going to happen. Remember when they used to tell us how Wall Street was forward-looking, right? They're supposed to, they're looking 6 months, 12 months out, and now any report on any given day signifies, big moves in Wall Street or big moves in commodity pricing or whatever it may be. Because I think the reality is starting to set in, which is everybody better be ready. And it's not just here. It's not just here. For a lower standard of living. I think, Jason, that's the biggest. And it's going to be primarily across the board. Countries that are very dollar dependent are, been facing massive waves of inflation. Then of course, what I'll call like the G7, the old guard countries that have been loaded up with debt. Jason, the same thing. And it's cruel when you have this much debt because you don't get the deflation you're normally accustomed to seeing when things slow down. Instead, things are getting a little worse, and yet prices are still rising. And guess what? Every time the rates go down, the Treasury has bigger problems selling debt.
That's going to continue. It's going to be hard to sell treasuries when there's a lot of pressure against the treasury market right now, and it seems like that's going to continue for some time, Joe.
800-951-0592. Jason and I, we're coming right back with the half-empty cup. Stay with us.